Trapped in a foreign country with a fake family, a terrifying car ride, and a gut feeling that saved her life. One woman's chilling encounter with a potential trafficker. What started as a dream job turned into a nightmare that nearly cost her everything. Hello, my YouTube family. I'm Naira Vox, a 23-year-old college girl with a curious heart and a love for the unknown.
And tonight,
I bring you my 6th horror story on this channel. So for the best experience, put on your headphones, turn off the lights, and let your imagination drift into the darkness. If you enjoy the chills and the thrill, show some love in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more haunted tales every day. I was just 20 when I first arrived in the United States. A nervous, wide-eyed girl stepping into a foreign world as an au pair. I didn't have much experience, just a suitcase full of dreams and a heart full of hope. Back home in France, I never even spent a night away from my family, let alone flown across an ocean. My English wasn't perfect, but I knew enough to get by. I was excited. It felt like the beginning of something beautiful. I thought, this will be a fun year, a cultural adventure, something to smile about when I return home. I got placed with the Joseph family, somewhere in a peaceful, upper-middle-class neighborhood. You know the kind, quiet roads, picture-perfect lawns, well-mannered kids riding their bikes, and golden retrievers lounging in backyards. The moment I got there, I remember thinking, I'm safe. This will be easy. Nothing bad ever happens in places like this. They had 2 boys, Brock and Brandon. Brock, the older one, was 12. A typical boy, really. Lazy at times, sometimes a little rude, but nothing out of the ordinary. He loved video games, cracked silly jokes, and mostly kept himself. Brandon, though, he was only 9, but something about him felt off. I can't explain it. There was a coldness in his eyes. Not shyness. Not awkwardness. Just a kind of blank curiosity. Like he was constantly watching, calculating. When I met him for the first time, he didn't speak.
he just stared at me.
No smile. No welcome. Just silence. And then, after a long, uncomfortable pause, he finally asked, "Are you the maid?" That's when I realized something wasn't right. I gave a soft, awkward laugh and told him I'd be helping take care of him and his brother for the year. He didn't laugh back. He just stared. It didn't take long for me to realize Brandon wasn't like most children. My host parents had warned me that he could be difficult. Difficult? That word didn't even begin to cover it. Brandon wasn't just moody or stubborn. He was cruel. And I don't mean silly tantrums or refusing to eat vegetables. I mean dangerous.
He lied.
All the time. And about things that could ruin lives. Once, he told his teacher that Brock had tried to choke him in the kitchen. It never happened. Another time, he told a neighbor that his parents locked him in the closet at night. Completely false. But the worst? One afternoon, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "The last au pair ran away because of me. Nobody ever saw her again." I tried to stay calm, gently told him that it wasn't a nice thing to say. His response? He narrowed his eyes and hissed, "Don't tell me what to do." At that point, things were still manageable. But deep down, I'll admit, I was scared. And then it got worse. About 2 months in, one night, I pulled back my sheets and froze. My entire mattress was covered in thumbtacks. Dozens of them. Maybe more than 100. All pointing up, waiting for me to lie down. I just stood there, heart pounding, trying to understand what I was seeing. The mattress cover was full of tiny puncture marks, like someone had carefully placed them one by one. Earlier that day, I'd seen Brandon peeking at me through the bedroom door while I was folding laundry. I thought he was just being nosy, but after that night, I wasn't so sure. I didn't tell his parents. I was afraid. Afraid they wouldn't believe me. Afraid they'd send me back to France. So I cleaned it up quietly and pretended it never happened. But something shifted after that. Brandon started following me around the house. I'd catch him peeking around corners, watching from doorways. Sometimes while I was cooking or reading, I'd look up and see him, sitting silently, eyes locked on me, never blinking. I never said a word. I'll admit it, I started avoiding him. I'd take longer showers, spend more time outside, anything to stay away. One quiet afternoon, I was watering flowers in the backyard. That's when I smelled it. Something sharp, sour, like something rotting. I followed the scent to a corner of the yard, where the soil looked freshly disturbed. Curious and a little uneasy, I grabbed a small garden spade and started digging. And then, I saw it. I gasped, nearly dropped the shovel. 3 dead rabbits. Their bodies twisted, mutilated. One had its legs tied together with string. I ran inside, shaking. Told Mr. and Mrs. Joseph right away. At first, they looked genuinely concerned. They called Brandon in and asked him if he knew anything. He gave them this wide-eyed, innocent look and said, "It wasn't me. That was it. No further questions." Mrs. Joseph shrugged and said it was probably one of the neighborhood kids, then told Brandon to go play inside. That night, I locked my bedroom door, and every night after. A week later, I woke up to a sound, a soft creak. I opened my eyes slowly, and there he was, Brandon, standing by my bed, holding something. I blinked, trying to make sense of the shape in his hand. And then my heart dropped. It was a kitchen knife. I screamed
Loud.
Mr. and Mrs. Joseph came running. But by then, the knife was gone. Brandon had shoved it under the bed. He told them he was just sleepwalking. Mrs. Joseph looked at me like I was overreacting. I pointed toward the knife handle. It was still sticking out. Mr. Joseph bent down, picked it up, and asked Brandon again. He just smiled. I've never seen that before. And, of course, they believed him. I told them my door had been locked. He must have picked it. They told me that was impossible, that I was imagining things. I've never felt more alone in my life. I had no one, and no idea what to do. But the decision was made for me. The next morning, Mrs. Joseph called me to the living room. She was holding something in each hand, a pearl necklace and my purse. She accused me of stealing her jewelry. I was frozen. I had never even seen that necklace before. She said she found it in my bag. I begged her to believe me, pleaded, but it didn't matter. Nothing I said could undo it. Brandon stood in the hallway, smirking. I knew it was him, and yet again they believed him. They fired me on the spot. The next day, I was on a flight back to France. Just like that. Brandon had destroyed my life. For months, I was depressed, broken. I thought I'd ruined my only chance of building a life in the US. I thought it was over. But slowly, things changed. Years later, I made it back. I've built a life here now. A good one. I have a job I love, real friends, and peace. But sometimes I still think about Brandon. I wonder what kind of man he became. What he's capable of now. Pause, soft, ominous music. For most people, traveling alone is scary. But not for me. I've always been independent. I make friends easily. That's part of why I chose to become an au pair. And maybe because I always dreamed of being a child psychologist. I've always believed that with the right care, the right guidance, we could change the world. Pause. Haunting smile in the voice. I only wish someone had tried. With Brandon. I'm originally from Germany, a tiny village outside Ulm. Most Americans have never heard of it, so now when people ask, I just say Germany.
It's easier that way.
And before you say anything, yes, I do think my English is pretty good. Most people say it's better than they expected. It's definitely improved since I've been living in the US. Credit for that goes to my dad, he's British. He made sure I grew up speaking both English and German like a native. I had this little electronic dictionary as a kid, one of those old translator gadgets. My dad and I used to play around with it all the time, typing in words and translating them just for fun. I also read a lot. Like, a lot. And honestly, that helped more than anything. Anyway, my host family lives in a really fancy suburb up in Northern California. Their house, it's kind of insane. You'd think living here would feel lonely, but the agency actually did a great job. I met a bunch of other au pairs nearby, and we clicked almost immediately. My best friend here is Jennifer. She's American, taller than me, louder than me, and just as curious about life. We're pretty much inseparable now, both here for the same reasons. Working, exploring, and trying to make the most of this adventure. There's this big college campus nearby, and it's pretty much the only decent place to go out unless you're ready to spend $100 on an Uber. Frat parties.
Bars.
The usual. And yeah, being foreign definitely helps. The accents get us past lines faster than you'd think. People say you need to be in a sorority to get into those frat parties, but somehow that rule doesn't apply to us. Still, we prefer the bars. Our favorite? A place called Tap. I've noticed Americans love themed nights. Taco Tuesdays. Wine Wednesdays. Honestly, I kind of love it. I guess. Any excuse to drink on a weekday, right? Funny thing is, Tuesdays actually became my favorite nights of the week. Especially for Jenny and me. That's when this story really begins. It was a couple of months after I'd moved to the US. I was standing by the bar, waiting to grab drinks for both of us, when this tall guy with curly brown hair came up to me and said, "You're German, right?" It totally caught me off guard. People usually guess European, but rarely German. I don't have the typical German features. So, whenever someone gets it right, I'm honestly intrigued. I laughed and told him, "Yeah, good guess." He introduced himself with this confident smile.
His name was Sebi.
We started talking, and it all felt really easy. I mean, I do get approached a lot when we go out. Not to sound arrogant, but I'm fit, I take care of myself, and I know I'm not bad looking. But most guys, they're obvious. Cheesy lines, forced compliments. You know the type. But Sebi felt different. He wasn't just flirting. He seemed genuinely interested. He even knew these little details about German culture. Things most Americans have no clue about. It was refreshing.
Smart.
Well-traveled. Curious. He made me feel seen. After chatting for a bit, I introduced him to Jenny. He smiled, waved his friend over. An Asian guy named Hunter. And boom. Jenny and Hunter hit it off immediately. That whole night was just fun. Simple, easy fun. Before we left, Sebi asked for my number, and I gave it to him, without even thinking twice. A few days later, he invited me over for dinner. I expected some fancy reservation or a quick bite out, but when I got to his place, he was cooking, like actually cooking. There was a pie dish in the oven. He opened a bottle of wine, and I helped him finish preparing everything.
It was sweet.
Thoughtful, kind of unexpected. I had such a good time that I ended up staying the night. I didn't plan to, but I didn't want to leave either. I woke up the next morning and took a moment to look around his room. Unlike most college apartments, his space was surprisingly clean. No posters, no clutter, no random decorations. Instead, his walls were covered with dozens of square photographs, all black and white images. They were landscapes, cities, countryside views, and somehow they all seemed oddly familiar. I got out of bed and moved closer to examine them. That's when I realized something. Each one had a location printed on it. Every single one was from Germany. The only exception was a picture of Monte Carlo, Monaco. By then, Sebi had woken up, and I couldn't help but ask him, "Do you have a thing for German architecture?" He laughed, telling me about his dad's aerial photo collection. Apparently, he'd picked his favorites from that collection to hang on his walls. I stepped back and glanced at some more pictures when something caught my eye. Right above his bed, there was one more photo, and it stopped me in my tracks. It was a landscape of my village, taken from above. I stared at it for a moment, completely stunned. The picture was taken just 20 minutes from my house. I turned to him and said, "Wait a minute, this is my village." Sebi's face lit up, and he got excited, telling me how crazy of a coincidence that was. The odds of this were incredibly slim. He started asking me a bunch of questions about my hometown, which I was happy to answer. Over the next few weeks, Sebi and I spent a lot of time together. He had class during the week, and I was working, but every weekend we were out together, plus Tuesday nights. Everything felt perfect. He was sweet, caring, and made sure I was comfortable when we went out. He was also really nice to my friends, which I appreciated. Sebi's friend, Hunter, turned out to be a bit strange, though. Every time someone played Take It Off by Fisher at the bar, he'd start stripping, literally, right in front of Jenny. It was weird, but at least he was harmless, right? Sebi, on the other hand, had always been great, until one night. He got significantly drunk, far more than usual. As he walked me back to his apartment, he rambled on and on about how much he loved German women and how he'd always dreamed of having a German wife. At one point, he even said that he always wanted to marry an au pair because foreign girls are great with kids. I just brushed it off as some strange fantasy of his, but something about it didn't sit right with me. It wasn't a deal breaker, though. After all, he had been perfect until then. But then came the night of our first dinner together. Sebi took me to this Italian restaurant, claiming he picked it because they had plenty of vegetarian options. That was sweet, but I wasn't vegetarian. I gave him a small smile and playfully asked, "How did you know I'm vegetarian?" He casually shrugged and said, "I saw it in one of your Instagram posts." That eased me for the moment, and I didn't think much more of it. But later, back at home, it hit me. My only post about being vegetarian was from years ago, and I post a lot on Instagram, so to scroll that far back to find it, not to mention, all of my posts about it were from Germany. That thought lingered uneasily in my mind, but I pushed it aside until the next time I stayed over at his place. While Sebi was asleep, curiosity gnawed at me. I unlocked his phone. It wasn't difficult. He hadn't been particularly careful with his password. What I found next left me speechless. There was a folder in his camera roll labeled Wife. Inside were screenshots of my social media, posts, captions, tagged locations. Even old stories I didn't remember posting. It sent a chill down my spine. But that was nothing compared to the Notes app. It was worse. There were English translations of my old posts in there, alongside a detailed schedule of when and where I'd be out based on my Instagram stories. The app even contained notes about my hometown, Germany, things I liked, all things I had shared over the years, just from my Instagram. And then, the worst thing I found, a photo of my driver's license. My heart stopped. I had no idea how he got it. I felt sick. Everything hit me at once. The second night at Sebi's place, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I'd gone out in America, and during a wild frat party, I lost my wallet. It wasn't just any wallet. It had my ID, and that's how Sebi found my Instagram, how he discovered everything. Where I was from, what I liked, my birthday. None of it was coincidence. He had planned it all. In the Notes app, I found a long, graphic message. I don't want to go into detail about it, but it was disgusting. I didn't know who the guy in those messages was anymore. I couldn't stand to look at everything else, so I grabbed my things and slipped out of his apartment quietly. Regretfully, I didn't take any photos for evidence. My hands were shaking during the entire drive back to my host family's house. Germans take privacy seriously, and I felt violated, sick even. My au pair profile was private, but my ID? He had my full name. And with that, he could have found out anything.
I didn't sleep that night.
I kept praying he hadn't figured out where I lived, praying he didn't know my host family's address. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages from Sebi. Where did you go? Why did you leave? Did you go through my phone? I sent him one last message. If you ever contact me again, I will call the police. Then I blocked him on everything. For the next few days, I lived in constant fear, always looking over my shoulder, terrified that he might show up at any moment. I privated my Instagram, locked everything down, and created a close friends list for when I went out, just in case he tried to find me again. Thankfully, he hasn't appeared in person, and it's been about 3 months since I last heard from him. But there's this pit in my stomach that never seems to go away. I can't shake the feeling that he knows where I'm living, that he's planning something. I hope I never see him again, but I'll update if anything else happens. Update. I wish I didn't have to write this, but recently, I've noticed the same silver car driving up and down my host family street. Sometimes it just sits there, across the street from their house. And now, he's reached out to me again, using fake phone numbers and Instagram accounts. The messages are always the same, just asking me to talk to him. I haven't responded to any of them. All of this confirms my worst fear. He knows where I'm living, and I might be in danger. I just don't know what to do next. I'm building a case to present to the police, but I've heard they often don't take things like this seriously. Luckily, my au pair commitment ends soon, so I'll be back in Germany before too long. This all started a few years ago when I moved to France. Ever since I was a child, I had dreamed of living in Europe. It was something I always knew I'd do someday. More than that, I wanted to work with kids. I've always had a natural way with them. I knew, deep down, that I wouldn't feel truly fulfilled unless my work involved caring for or teaching children in some way. So, when I discovered the chance to become an au pair in France, where I could put my high school French to use and live with a family, it felt like everything was finally falling into place. The decision wasn't easy. I'm from Canada, and the move was huge. But France had favorable visa options for Canadians, and it was the perfect opportunity to improve my French, which is Canada's second language. Plus, I had a few friends in Paris, so I wouldn't be entirely alone. Money, though, was an issue. I didn't have family support. Let's just say it's a personal matter. So, I couldn't afford one of those expensive agencies, and I ended up using a free au pair website. That's where I connected with Leah. Her ad was warm and straightforward. She needed help with her 2 kids while her husband traveled for work. She seemed wonderful, polite, friendly, and caring in our video calls. She called me Sherry and male, terms I wasn't used to but found charming in a motherly way. Leah asked me lots of questions about myself, how I was with kids, how I felt about family life, but didn't talk much about herself. Despite that, I trusted her. Everything felt genuine. The only thing that felt off was the kids. I'd asked to meet them during our calls a few times, but Leah always had a reason why they couldn't be there. One was at school, another was on a play date with a friend. She always had an explanation. She promised I'd meet them soon, but that moment never seemed to come. I was supposed to meet the kids as soon as I arrived. It felt a bit strange, but I figured I'd see them soon enough. Leah sent me a formal agreement, everything looked good, and we agreed on a start date. I booked my flight, packed my life into a suitcase, and said goodbye to Canada. When I landed at Charles de Gaulle, I expected Leah to be there, waiting for me. But to my surprise, she wasn't. From everything I'd heard, most host families meet their au pairs at the airport, so this was odd. My phone buzzed, and I saw a message from Leah saying she was stuck in traffic and asking me to go to the side drop-off area where someone would pick me up. The message sounded a little off. I had to double-check with Google Translate to make sure it wasn't a mistake. I was confused and unsettled. Despite my gut telling me something wasn't right, I followed her instructions. A few minutes later, a car pulled up and a woman approached. She was in her late 40s, maybe, with short blonde hair and a bright, almost too perfect smile. She introduced herself as Leah's cousin and said, "You must be Leah's au pair. She sent me to get you." Something in my gut immediately felt wrong. I asked if I could talk to Leah and unlocked my phone to call her. The woman said Leah was probably still driving and reassured me that she'd be waiting for me at home. I called Leah anyway. It went straight to voicemail. No ringing, nothing. I tried again, but it was the same. The woman kept smiling, saying, "You'll be fine, don't worry," but something about her energy, too eager, too smooth, made me feel more and more uneasy. I was exhausted from the long flight, and at this point, what was I supposed to do? Stand in the airport forever? So I reluctantly got into the car. The woman kept the conversation going nonstop. She asked about my flight, my life in Canada, and if I was excited to start my new job. But whenever I tried to steer the conversation toward Leah or the kids, she would just brush it off, saying that I'd love them and that I'd meet them soon. The more she talked, the worse I felt. It wasn't just her polished demeanor, it was how she seemed to avoid answering any questions. She was too eager to keep me talking, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't telling me everything. The scenery outside began to change, and I had no idea where I was headed. I had the address in Google Maps, and the route we were taking didn't match at all. We were heading away from the suburbs and into what looked like an industrial area. Panic started to set in. This wasn't a shortcut. I asked her directly, "Where are we going?" But she just brushed it off lightly, repeating that Leah was expecting us and that everything was fine. That's when the blood drained from my face. I knew she was lying. I told her to take me back to the airport. There was no answer. I repeated myself, more firmly this time, telling her I would call the police if she didn't take me back. She just told me to relax and kept insisting I was overreacting. I wasn't letting up. My mind was racing and my body was on high alert. When the car slowed down again, I didn't think twice. I kicked open the door and jumped out into the street. To my surprise, she didn't drive off. Instead, she just stared at me like I was the crazy one. I called my mom, my voice shaking as I told her everything. "Get away from the car. Find somewhere safe," she urged. As I was talking to my mom, I looked through the windshield and saw the woman on her phone, speaking rapidly in a language I didn't recognize. It wasn't French, and it definitely wasn't English. I had this gut feeling that she was talking to Leah. There was no other car around, but I wasn't about to get back in that vehicle. Eventually, the woman opened the driver's side door and took a step toward me. I screamed that I was on the phone with the police. The second the words left my mouth, she stopped in her tracks. Without another word, she turned, went back to the car, and threw my suitcase onto the street. Then she sped off. As she drove away, I managed to get the license plate number, but I was barely holding it together. Tears were threatening to spill, but I stayed on the phone with my mom. Eventually, I ended up hitchhiking to one of my friend's houses, still shaken, but alive. I honestly don't know what I would have done without the support I received from my friend's family. They helped me report everything to the police and even helped me arrange a flight back to Canada, something I'll always be grateful for. Eventually, I got updates from the police. Apparently, there was no registered host family under Leah's name. The phone number Leah used was a prepaid, untraceable one. The photos of the children were all stolen from the internet. Everyone I spoke to about this kept saying the same thing. I was moments away from being trafficked. That thought hits me harder than anything else. The worst part of the whole ordeal was the money I spent on those plane tickets and the emotional toll it took on me. It's something I'll never be able to undo, a permanent trauma. But looking back now, I know how incredibly lucky I am. I was able to get away from something that could have been unimaginably worse. Everything about that situation was meticulously planned, and if I hadn't trusted my gut, I might not be here today. It took a long time to move on, but eventually I made my way back to France. This time, I went through a verified agency. I'm working on fulfilling the residency requirements, with the goal of eventually becoming a permanent citizen here.